David Begnaud is in San Juan, Puerto Rico. David, just how powerful is this storm expected to be when it hits Puerto Rico?
It could be anywhere between a Category 3 and a Category 4 hurricane. The last one, Irma, 2 weeks ago, moved about 100 miles north, roughly 100 miles north of Puerto Rico. Didn't make a direct hit, but the island still lost a majority of its power, up to 70%. So now you've got a storm that forecasters are saying could make a direct hit here. So imagine what that could do to the power grid. There are about 450 shelters that are open and available, and some of those shelters have people in them from Hurricane Irma. And they expect that those people will stay through Maria, especially since the fear factor, quite honestly, is significantly higher with this storm.
I bet. You mentioned that Puerto Rico lost power, but I'm sure they're still in cleanup mode. For some of Puerto Rico's neighbors, it was much, much worse. They're in damage, reaction to all the damage that they had, rebuilding mode. So just how are government and emergency officials really planning for this? Another hurricane really just days after already being hit by one.
So you've got the U.S. Virgin Islands that are incredibly tough to get to. The only way to get in there is either with a charter or if you go with the military by plane or by ship. We're actually trying to get there today on a private helicopter tour. By the way, I keep wiping my head. The sun is beaming. It's miserably hot here, yet predictably pretty. You wouldn't know that a hurricane is coming. But back to the Virgin Islands, a lot of people might say that the coverage has been lacking there. The access has been very tough, just getting in there, right? Some of the images we've seen make it clear that the Virgin Islands was decimated. And I mean, that's putting it mildly, right? The countryside looks as though a wildfire tore through there, but instead it was a hurricane. Here in Puerto Rico, this gentleman operating the tractor here is moving sand up on the dirt. Essentially what he's doing is trying to build a sand barrier to protect these side streets from the storm surge that is expected. Look, when you live on an island, you're used to these kinds of threats, so I wouldn't say people are panicked here. In fact, I can't turn the camera around because it would be facing directly into the sunlight, but there are 3 ladies laid out on beach chairs. So as I tell you, people are taking the threat seriously. You also have others who are like, hey, we'll get ready when it gets close, which is in about 48 hours.
Yeah, that's the clock is definitely ticking. Maybe that part of the trade-off for living in such a beautiful location is you might have to deal with this storms like this, but I'm sure they don't like it, and they're hoping maybe for a little bit of an adjustment as the forecast unfolds over the next few hours. David Begnaud in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Thank you so much, David.
You bet.